John Cable on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Outside now, it's 58.
At 7:35, the mighty 1630 KCJJ, first Monday of the month. Amazed that he showed up. Sheriff Brad Kunkel.
Like I told you, every day's a work day. I don't know where the shock is coming from. Well, sheriffing is a 365 job.
We, Steve, of all people, should know that.
That's right.
Well, what's on my mind is what's going on today as far as law enforcement, not just sheriffing, but policing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the mayor of Chicago has told his police force, do not cooperate with ICE.
Mm-hmm.
Which puts this whole thing into, puts local law enforcement into one big, mess.
So the difference is in Iowa, there's this law specifically saying we have to cooperate. And that's some of there's two separate laws. There's one, and it's been around since 2019. So the notion that about the law about law enforcement cooperating with immigration this is nothing new. And that's something we had to kind of spend some time actually explaining since January, since the Trump administration. Obviously they have made ICE and immigration the focal point. And the fact of the matter is, we have to cooperate to a certain degree. So, and what we're doing under the code is nothing different than we were doing for the last 6 years. So I don't know about Illinois. Maybe that's something different that they can do. They can order local law enforcement to not do something. But in Iowa, it's not so simple. It's I think it's 27A.
He's important. He has 2 phones.
Wow.
I know.
He's like Hardy.
Yeah.
Only Hardy's trying to get rid of one.
So, Iowa Code 27A, I'm reading right out. It says, a local entity shall not adopt or enforce a policy or take any other action which the local entity prohibits or discourages the enforcement of immigration laws. And you shall not prohibit or discourage a person who is a law enforcement officer from doing any of the following. And so it lays it out that, actually there are certain things we can do. It's very similar to then 27B, which was passed in 2021, which was under the Back the Blue bill, which then basically took the same language and said a local entity shall not have a policy or practice that discourages the enforcement of any laws. Which is where you saw Iowa City, for example, they had like an internal policy about the enforcement of certain traffic offenses, and overnight that Back the Blue bill then erased that policy, saying if you have a policy discouraging the enforcement of equipment violations or seatbelt violations, then that is a policy that discourages the enforcement of any law, and therefore that policy is illegal. And the penalty for that is the denial of state funds. And that's, remember the Winnebago County issue from this last year. That's the section of the code that was attempted to be enforced by the Attorney General's office.
So was it Iowa City or you guys that had this program where if people's license plate headlamps,
Iowa City,
it was they were burned out or something, they would give them a voucher to go get the and then if they did it within such and such a time, then they wouldn't be cited.
Correct.
And so this new law would negate that policy?
Well, it would negate the idea or the policy that if it said, we instead of enforcing it, here's an alternative. Mm-hmm. I still think there's a way you could enforce it and provide that opportunity, but you can't. The law says basically you can't do something in lieu of enforcing it, or because that would be discouraging the enforcement of it.
Right, and I've had the same thing happen to me. I was driving here one morning, and I never look at the back of my car. I don't know if my lights are on or not. And one of your deputies pulled me over and said, "Hey, your license plate lights are out."
Yeah.
And they didn't give me a ticket or anything. Just said, I said, I had no idea. I'll get it fixed today.
Yeah, and it doesn't take away a law enforcement's ability to exercise discretion. Absolutely, and that's exactly what happened in your situation. What this is saying you can't have some sort of policy, and it's very vague. It can be, implied or indirect. It doesn't have to necessarily be written, but about the discouraging the enforcement of any law. And that's what happened. That was the argument that was kind of made up in Wenatchee County when the sheriff just said, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to follow the law," is essentially what he said. And the complaint that was made was a violation of 27B.
But it really wasn't. I mean, he was following the law.
Right.
I mean, that's what he said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what he said.
That to me was just political.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And they did drop that eventually, but it caused quite a ruckus there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, local law enforcement, though, feels like it's being pitted against.
That's been going on for 5-6 years. I mean, how law enforcement's really been. We've gotten wrapped up in hyper partisanship. I mean, we've become. I mean, Democrats and Republicans have both really kind of polarized the public around law enforcement, and here in the middle, we just have a job. We're trying to do our job every day. We're trying to do it. We do it objectively. We train a lot. We take it very seriously. We do this job because we believe in things like community service and doing things for the greater good, and the sacrifice we have to make for missing, nights, weekends, holidays, baseball practice, choir concerts, all those things, and yet we get also pulled into these political arguments because it inflames feelings on both sides. It's an easy place to get people upset about something. Again, on both ends of it,
right?
And it's super frustrating because the people in the middle signed up. They have the job that they want to do, that they signed up to do, and we don't want any part of it.
And guardsmen now are worried. Seriously, guardsmen are worried. Whether they're violating the Constitution when they're going into these cities.
Some of it might be their own city.
Right.
I mean, think about it. I mean, think about the position that puts some of these soldiers in when they may very well be deployed back to their own street.
Well, and Governor Pritzker in Illinois gave a really eloquent speech about not wanting these people, the National Guard, to come to Illinois to do things like that. And they said, don't disparage the guardsmen because they can be court-martialed if they don't follow orders, and their lives can be ruined.
But they're worried about being court-martialed if they do follow orders.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
it's an untenable position.
It is,
sure.
And I mean, think about a lot of guard members are. I mean, they're young people.
Well, some guard members were actually helping fight fires out in the west, the Northwest, and I showed up and started.
Oh, ICE! I thought you said you did.
No,
I thought you said I showed up. Like,
no,
wow.
No, ICE.
Yeah,
and started pulling firefighters off of the job and putting them in the vans and the buses.
Well, and then there's a photo that's been circulating of guardsmen in Washington D.C. doing park beautification projects, and it's a mess for sure. Well,
that's not what the Guard trained for.
No, of course
and it has really nothing to do with safety.
Although I'm sure they've done their share of beautification on their bases and stuff. They keep them busy. I had a high school teacher. It was funny. He was in the Army, and he says, he's ended up getting duty. And all these other guys, they get away with it because they were smoking. All right, who's busy? I'm on a smoke break. And, and so he says, I started smoking so I could get out of work.
I remember when I was in the academy, we'd go out for a run. We'd be gone for 2-3 mile run, come back, and we had one guy in the academy who I use air quotes, some sort of a knee injury. And if I had a nickel for every time we'd come back, jogging, we're bent over, huffing and puffing, and he's having a smoke with one of the instructors because he held back. I'm like, oh, it was so, yeah. The old smoke break.
Yep.
When was the last time you chased somebody? You ran after them?
Me?
Yeah.
It's been a minute. But just to be clear, my job is I do very little like street,
You're
frontline law enforcement.
You're more administrative than.
Yeah, I'm 90.
You guys have to chase. I mean, is it like you see on TV, like you see on? Well,
it's not as often, but we have to run after people, whether it's down a sidewalk or into a cornfield.
But do you have to? Okay.
Where are you going with this?
The FBI, the FBI show. Do you have to announce before you get to them? Do you have to announce from a distance that you're the police and you're coming for them? You're the sheriff.
No.
They always announce it from a distance, and then they have to run after.
The TV does a handful of things that don't line up with real life.
No, that come on.
No, it helps. It helps you in court later if somebody says, "Well, I didn't know it was the police." I mean, the reason they do that is so that it gives someone that audible warning that you are law enforcement.
Well, I see a lot of reports where they say I'm fully uniformed and
that's why.
And identify
that's exactly
myself.
why.
Yeah.
Because the FBI they're not wearing uniforms, not readily identifiable.
Right.
So there's part of the difference. Also, it helps, like when you see those interference charges when people, they were given commands to stop resisting and were trained to tell somebody to verbalize your intentions, to verbalize you're going to use your taser, that kind of thing.
Yeah, most of the reports about that say multiple commands to stop. Mm-hmm. It's not like they just do it once and they go, all right, let's just take them down.
Exactly. Yep, and that's all. At the end of the day, we've got to think about getting the person safely in control. We got to think about our own safety, and you're also trained to do those things, knowing that if you have to sit on the witness stand and testify, you've got to articulate what you did and why you did what you did.
Yeah. And, when alcohol comes into play, there's a lack of judgment several times.
Absolutely. Which is what I was going to talk about today.
Okay.
Well, we had a big weekend. In case you missed it, Hawks came to town, or UAlbany came to town. We had our first football game.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd give you an idea of how that affected the jail.
Yeah.
So Monday morning, so we do initial appearances 365 days a year. So if you get arrested on Christmas Eve, you're going to see a judge make your initial appearance Christmas morning. So we have court every day.
So yesterday you had court?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
See, I thought it's Christmas.
No. So I will require.
You get like a Jewish judge, or
we don't ask. You can ask that. I can't.
What the hell is wrong with you today?
well, I mean, that's Christmas. Should have Christmas off.
So no, we do initial appearances every day of the year. So Friday morning court would be arrests that happened Thursday and an early Friday morning. Court's 8-ish, in the morning. We had 18 initial appearances Friday morning from Thursday overnight. So that's pretty busy. It's not terribly out of the ordinary, but Saturday morning. So for court, you want to take any guesses how many we had?
For the night before the football?
So I'm sorry, that would have been. So I'm sorry, the 18 was into Saturday morning. So then Sunday morning.
Probably double.
So Sunday morning, so the night after the game.
Yeah, double that.
So you're
36,
40.
Jim wins. Steve, he gets the rest of the day off. We had 32 for court. So
we both went over. So we both lost if we're doing Price is Right rules.
But we're not. We're doing the Sheriff is Right rules. So 32. I mean, that's. If I remember last year, I want to say that's probably the highest. We maybe had 30, 31, probably the highest for one of the games last year.
Were they mostly intoxication or
fighting? A lot of them, a lot of them were, what you would kind of expect. And then this morning we had 10, so that's not terribly out of the ordinary. Like I said, last year I want to say maybe the highest we ever had was 30 on one morning after a football game. That's a pretty normal number anymore.
This is a big record-breaking weekend.
Yeah, it's not. I remember, 20 years ago, lots changed in the last 20, 25 years when it comes to just everything from arrest kind of policies and leadership decisions among the agencies to laws and all those things. 20, 25 years ago, we might have 50 for initial appearances on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning after a game, like for Ohio State or Iowa State came to town, that kind of thing. We just don't see those numbers of arrests anymore.
Well, because of the 21 rule?
I don't think it's because of any one thing. I think it's a lot of things.
I think you're de-escalation of situations has something to do with it too. I think you're trained to
some of it,
rather than listen, we're going to give you a citation. You got court, such and such a date, and if somebody's trying to fight with you about that, you do your best to de-escalate the situation more than you used to.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of. I think that could be a piece of it. I think that speaks to the point about cultural and leadership changes amongst law enforcement. Just it doesn't have to be so zero tolerant, if you will, when it comes to open container, other alcohol violations. So I think that's a piece of it. I think some of it is generational between the public and law enforcement. I don't know. I think it's just that's what we've seen. It's just not like it used to be 25 years ago.
You miss it?
Now, will this go back up or down? I don't know. I doubt it ever goes any lower.
Do you miss it?
We had a lot of stories that come out. I'll tell you that much. My goodness.
What I didn't see on the arrest reports for today were any people from out of town. Most of them were local folks that got arrested for OWI and so forth. A lot of times.
Well, I think that would make a little more sense, if anything, because it's not like Albany has a big travel crowd.
That's true. I saw some of them Friday night out on the Penn Mall, but they were, like you say, few and far between. It's a long way to come for a game.
Yeah, most of the people coming to a game like this,
football parents.
I mean, probably people within, I would say, an hour commute of Iowa City that are coming to watch this game. Now, when Iowa State comes. We play Iowa State at home this year? I don't even know.
They're
okay.
in Ames. Good for you guys.
That's right. I would venture to guess then you'll see a bit of a spike in the jail numbers over there of Eastern Iowa residents because the people travel better. We'll see that when again you get a little more of a local, somewhat regionally local team. A lot of your visiting crowds will travel a little better.
Do you have a feel for like how the arrests fluctuate depending on game time? For example, a 5:00 game, the game's over at 8, 9 o'clock. People usually are calling it a night by then. Whereas if it's an 11 o'clock game, it's Hawkeyes win. Hey, let's go downtown and have a good time. Anything like that?
I think it's the opposite. I think if you have an 11 o'clock game, people tailgate early, go to the game gets over 3-ish. I think actually more people probably wind up calling it a day versus a 5 or a 7 o'clock start. Game gets over and then go down. So I think I think some of that 32 number speaks to being a 5 o'clock kickoff too. And the heat, weather doesn't really help. I'm sure the heat lended to some of the.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad yesterday, but there are other days when it's really, really hot, and that gets tempers flared.
Yeah, but when you get that many people coming in, you always have a handful that are uncooperative in some way, shape, or form. So, I know the jail staff has to really then figure out where they're going to. It becomes a shuffling people around. Having to move. We may have one block that is normally general population. We've got to move them out to. And maybe put them in another block to open up more overflow space. And then you have uncooperative people. It takes up holding cells. It becomes a lot of management and logistical shuffling for sure in that short amount of time.
It seems like now things have turned around for the jail situation. Is that due to maybe the plan to combine Iowa City and Johnson County, or is it just people are finally getting it?
I think it's a little of both. Like I always talk about, the need hasn't really changed since we voted on this 12 years ago. I mean, it's still overcrowded. We still spend exorbitant amount of money on out of county housing. What's compounding the problem now is deferred maintenance and just the state of the building.
Right.
And so I think what helps, if you will, what resonates is we have to think about the effect that building has on the people that work there and the people that are housed there. This is this issue is also, this is an employee, this is a public worker issue, it's a labor issue, and it's also a safety and security issue for the inmates that are in there. And, the understanding that government has a responsibility to protect both. And that means having a facility that is adequate for living conditions, for work conditions, and for legal conditions. And it's at a point where it's not upholding any end of the bargain. We have a long way to go. So the next kind of piece in this is, I believe it's on the 9th, the supervisors and the city council are having a joint meeting to actually talk about this as groups, as be a public meeting. Both bodies are going to be there at the table to sit down and talk about, is this something they're both interested in moving forward. Last week, the supervisors passed a resolution formally asking the city if they are interested in moving this forward. So now the ball is basically in the city's court. So we'll talk about it here in a couple of weeks.
The only is not a negative per se, but I don't know that it's applicable, is those saying, well, they'll, hesitantly saying they'll go along with it, but they would like to see counselors in the jail talking to counseling the inmates. Does that happen, or is that really your job? Or
So we have a social worker on staff at the sheriff's office, and he's assigned to the jail division for what you're talking about. I would like to see some sort of like programming and service opportunities and brought in religious services, but the problem is we don't have the place to do it. We don't actually have dedicated space to do it, and so that is part of what a new facility would be classroom and programming space, and also one-on-one individual meeting rooms. Because I do think, one piece of jail diversion is having a facility that can also provide opportunities for people to, improve while they're in custody and hopefully not come back. So there is a piece of that built in. In fact, I think, we've been talking about this as a community and as a committee for quite a while. And I really think we're at a point where what we should be talking about is how many spaces do we need? And the concept we came up with last year, it had one large classroom space and a couple small individual, like one-on-one rooms. I really think what we should be talking about is there a way to add a second one. As we did our tours, we did some jail tours this last year, and that was a pretty consistent theme that came up from talking to other sheriffs and jail administrators is, when we look at the classroom or programming space they have, a lot of them would say, I really wish I had another one, because you have providers that want to be involved, and you have inmates with a lot of time, and you need to provide opportunities for people to kind of help also pass the time and improve themselves.
How long can somebody be in that jail before they're transferred? Or
sure. So jails house people for two different reasons. Either they have been convicted of a crime and sentenced to less than 365 days, or they have been arrested and held on bond, and they will be in custody as long as it takes for their case to be disposed of through the court process. That can be anywhere from a few hours, like most of the individuals we talk about on on the arrest reports, to when they make their initial appearance and held on bond, they are in custody until that case either goes to trial, they plead guilty, or some of the release condition have changed. Sometimes that we've had people in custody for over 3 years that have been pretrial for things like first-degree murder, some sexual assault cases. We've had individuals that have been incarcerated in the jail, held on bond, for over 3 years until their case gets disposed of in court. Sometimes that's how long it takes for a case to go to trial.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah. So, well, again, think about, I would say pretty much any time somebody's in jail for murder, for example, that is going to be a very long time.
Months-long process at least.
Until it goes to trial. Yeah. I mean, whenever you think about how often you run a story about a case has been delayed, the trial's been delayed, you see that more with those cases with more serious consequences. If somebody's looking at life in prison, I'm fairly certain they're going to do everything they can, but working with their attorney to stretch it out as long as possible and hopefully not go to prison, or delay it as long as they can. So, we on average, our long-term population that makes up kind of that high number all the time is probably in there 60 to 90 days before their case is disposed of, a guilty plea, probation, back to prison, whatever it may be. And then it's kind of that constant, kind of almost like a one in, one out type situation where, just as somebody's released, pleads guilty, whatever it may be, then, there's always other criminal charges in the queue because crime doesn't stop. It's a long answer.
Wow.
So yeah, it can be anywhere from a few hours to a few years somebody's into the jail. But the thing, again, it's two things: sentenced to less than 365 days. If anything beyond that, people are sentenced to the Department of Corrections. They go to prison. Pretrial is what takes up 90% of our jail beds long term.
And then I just can't imagine how you counsel somebody that's killed somebody and say, don't do it again.
It's yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do a lot to try and manage just, the stress of being incarcerated. I mean, they're people, and we have to take care of them while they're in custody. And that also means managing the stresses of confinement. And without
gym experiences here.
So how much do you have an area where they could get out of their cells and
now? Mm-hmm. No. So
they're basically in their cells most of the day.
And the day room. So the cells have a larger, we call it the day room, like a a larger area where they can go out, watch TV, eat meals. But you got to remember, the jail was built to the square footage standards of 1981. And when the jail was built, it was single celled. So it was initially built assuming you had 8 beds or 4 beds, so the maximum of 4 people. They double bunked it about 1990, so they added twice as many people in rooms designed for 1. Now they could have up to 2.
What is in a cell? I mean, what do they have in a cell?
2 metal beds, a desk, a toilet, and a sink.
And that is it.
And a little shelf on the wall.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no.
This is why I haven't killed anybody.
That's the reason.
There's no, you have no privacy. In some of the cells, it's bars and not doors, and the toilet is right by the bars, so it's right next to where people are walking by and watching TV, eating their meals.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean that's how it was built. That's the standard. That's the decision that was made, in the late 70s, early 80s when it was constructed, and here we are.
Well, and you talk about the conditions there. It's got to be rough for morale of your workers to go into a facility like that, knowing that what repair are we going to have to make today, or what do we need to wear galoshes to come in today, or we'll bring an umbrella?
Yeah,
or
so obviously the plumbing is a constant problem because the jail's on the second floor, the rest of the offices and staff are on the first, and as if the building itself is infrastructure, within it is other infrastructure like water and sewer pipes. I mean, they're 45 years old. They start to fail. So that's a pretty regular occurrence. And the only way we ever know is when you look up and see the ceiling tiles are stained. And so then we have to call maintenance, fix leaky, and you don't know if it's water or sewer.
But that takes a certain kind of person to law enforcement. I mean, you don't think about that
That's right.
they have to deal with human condition.
That's right.
They have to be able to, see people locked up in these kind of cells.
Yeah.
And still be able to, continue their normal lives after,
and to
their work.
That's right. And to manage people who are, not only dealing with confinement and the possibility of serious legal consequences hanging over their head, it's whatever maybe other physical ailment that the person's dealing. Jails have a high concentration of people with health problems, just by the nature of, who's in jail. A lot of people that are in jail are, don't have access to health care, may have addiction problems, underlying health problems that don't get addressed. And so while they're in custody, mental illness. So while they're in custody, then jail staff are also having to take care of those things. And it's really difficult. You're also seeing people sometimes again and again and again. And that actually, can work to our benefit really as jail staff, because people remember how they were treated while they were in custody. And then they come back, they remember that experience, because we have to live together basically while they're in custody.
Right.
The deputies, they're working 12-hour shifts, but that inmate is there 24/7. And so, the staff is trained and has a real good incentive to, be professional and be respectful to people, because you're going to be seeing them again tomorrow, and you're going to be seeing them when you come back from your days off, or that person's going to be coming back again in 6 months.
How do you shake it off and go home, though? I mean, how do you
compartmentalize it?
Sure.
Or?
Yeah, you do. When I first started, it helped. At the time, my wife actually, she worked there before we were married. She actually was a civilian position in the jail too. So a little bit of it helped. We could talk about these things, and I had that kind of support system at home. Most people don't, but it does help just to be able to talk about it. But also, as your teams, the jail staff work in teams on their shifts. It helps for them to lean on each other and have, solid leadership to kind of guide them through these things too. Because some nights it's pretty quiet. Some nights not a lot goes on. Everybody's cooperative. Other nights, every other person is that you're trying to book in. People want to fight. They try and bite. You get threatened. All of those things in between. And you're also managing the people that are coming in and the people that are in custody. So they have to go from serving a meal or handing out cleaning supplies to the rest of the people who are in custody, and then stop what they're doing and then book in somebody who is trying to assault you and or telling you they're going to kill your family, and then you get that person booked in, and then you go back to helping inmates, passing out fresh laundry bags, everything else. The deputies, the jail staff, the detention officers, and the deputies have a hard job because they're managing the people living and congregate living all the time, and people coming in, and trying to balance both of those things throughout their shift. It's a hard job.
No, it doesn't sound like fun.
But it can be in a way, because sometimes a lot of the people that come and go, they do remember how they were treated while they were in custody, and I've had those experiences in my career where somebody that I encountered when I was working in the jail remembers how that experience was 10 years later when you run into them at a parade or working on an investigation or something like that. So
Yeah, it should be pointed out. A lot of the people, not everybody, but a lot of the people do reform and do go out in
That's right.
society and contribute to their society, their families, whatever. It's not just because you go to jail doesn't mean you're always going to carry that with you.
That's right. Yeah, and some people, they're going to come and go, and they're going to hate it the whole time. It wasn't a good experience. I mean, you're going to have those things too.
Yeah, incarceration probably is never a good experience in the long run, but it's like everything else that you do, it's a matter of attitude. Well, I'm here. Am I going to make it horrible for me, or can I try to at least make it tolerable?
That's right. And jail staff's job is to make sure people are treated fairly, that they get the rights and services are afforded to them, that they're treated respectfully, because one, that's their job, and two, we see a lot of the same people over and over again, and they remember that experience, and they know that we're going to be living together for a while.
Tommy and I have been discussing this and dealing with this. We, if some kid's 18 years old and gets picked up for like urination, we've ceased putting their names in the. I mean, we'll report it; it's public record, but we don't really need the names because we get all these from past years that. These terrible emails where they're almost sobbing because they got picked up for, they were drunk one night or they urinated, something like that. Just, and they'll never be able to get a job now or anything if we don't take down the story. And, which if it's something as simple as, they're kids, something as simple as that, we'll pull the story. I mean,
there used to be a website. It was called like JohnsonCountyJail.com. I can't remember what it was, but I remember a few years ago there were people would be trying to get into nursing school or something, and something would blip on if their employer was doing a background check. I don't know if they Googled them or what, but they'd get some hit on this website. Even had a picture of the sheriff's office in jail on it. And so then they would be reaching out to me saying, well, hey, this website says I got picked up for urination, but the charge was I got a deferred judgment and it was expunged, and yet it's still on this website. You need to take it down. And so I take a look and I get back to him and say, well, this is not a government website. This is some privately run website that we have no authority or oversight over. So, yeah, it kind of sucked for these kids because some website was taking the initial report, putting it out there, and so an employer would see it, thinks it's some sort of official report, and it wasn't.
We'll take down an article like that. Now, if it hasn't gone to court yet, or the woman stabbed the guy repeatedly, yes, it'll probably ruin her chances of getting the job, but I'm not taking it down. It hasn't even gone to court yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, stabbings tend to have negative consequences for the stabber.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, or the shooter.
Yes.
So now you have to work today?
No. So, I'm looking at my phone because... So you were surprised I came in here? Well,
he told me. Said,
why don't you just shut up?
He's going to be here. I
told my kids. I said, hey, if you want to have breakfast in the morning, let's 8:30. So any odds if they're even up yet? Do you think they're going to make it? Because I haven't heard from them. They're going to need to leave about 5 minutes ago if they want to be there on time.
Oh, you're meeting for breakfast?
Yeah, I told them 8:30. Yeah. You want to take any bets if they're going to make it?
I say. Now, I'm going to say
they're 18 and 14. You tell me.
I'm going to say yes because they're boys and they want to eat.
We'll see.
Yeah.
You'll let us know next month.
Oh, wait. What? He just texted, I'm leaving right now. I wonder if he's listening. That's hilarious.
Right.
Oh, I got one right.
I wasn't sure. But yeah.
Okay.
So they're on their way.
All right.
Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Yep.
Mighty 1630 KCJJ.
Summer of the Arts brings live music to downtown Iowa City with the Friday Night Concert Series, sponsored by McGrath Toyota of Iowa City. Join us for an evening of entertainment on the Ped Mall starting at 6:30.